Last time on Elden Ring Z, we found out that we are all shaman and that clones can be born from a sense of inner conflict and bloodshed.
So you're saying we're all descended from Adam and Eve, then we're all cousins? That's right.
Now, will not Godwin rely on quantity over quality in his next video, or will he finally reach the stars? Hi, I'm not Godwin. Tonight, we will look at Astel, Godwin, and the afterlife of sorcerers. We'll learn about the water cycle and how it applies to the sorcerers of Elden Ring, and take a deeper look into defining what an Astel is. We'll also be doing some wild speculation on Godwin and what he was possibly created for. So put your seatbelts on because we are on a field trip to the stars. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Inekipu, Banoon, Black Current Lore, Dryleaf Aaron, the Emerald Gecko, Getrido, Jack is a Mimic, Moxie Watts, Ooze Prince of Death, Pevagelt Sage, and Scum Mage Info for reading the item description, Daniel D. Teach for helping me with the sound wizardry. Banoon even took some of the more glamorous shots, so I beg of you to check out each and every one of their channels. Now, we can begin.
You mean water keeps evaporating, condensing, raining, collecting? Forever?
Oh, bingo! That's why its movement is called the water cycle.
But water has to go somewhere.
Oh, it does! It goes around and around and around and around and around, round and around.
We could be water for the rest of our lives!
The water cycle is the never-ceasing order of precipitation, collection, evaporation, and the condensation that carries the water from river to air and back down again in the form of rain or snow. And you may already be piecing together how this all applies to the sorcerers of Elden Ring, but allow me to explain. The blue beams of light persisting in the air we find around the Three Sisters and Mana Celeste tell a story of how the stars in the sky fall and leave ghostly beams of light, similar to lasers of rain trapped in time. Perhaps riverbeds where clay is formed provides a soft landing for these stars. For now, we'll call this starfall instead of rainfall. Oh, make a wish.
Starlight Shard, an ephemeral silver that gives off a pale blue glow. What remains of a passing flash of starlight, used to gradually restore FP and unfortunately not prawns. A prized item that was once used in the Eternal City as an ingredient in intoxicating draughts.
The starlight shards are described as slivers. Believe it or not, the sliver is a play on words. Sliver is a sewing term for a starting piece of material before a thread becomes a thread. I've linked a wonderful Reddit piece on the subject in the video description below. It covers the Norse version of the Fates and its connection to Radahn. So please check that out. Starlight shards are consumed most often by sorcerers, as replenishing their magic reserve is irresistible boon to the unsuspecting tadpoles. They take the bait and the snowball starts rolling. But as the saying goes, you can't squeeze blood from a stone. Leading us to the next stage, Primal Glintstones.
Glintstone from within the sorcerer's soul's body, seemingly half alive. Blood vessels are visible within. In essence, a primal glintstone is a sorcerer's soul. If transplanted into a compatible new body after the original body dies, the sorcerer will rise again. Quote, "My apprentice, do you think it distasteful?" End quote.
So in Elden Ring, it seems the stone squeezes blood from you, if you'll forgive my little jest. The Cuckoo Surcoat speaks of how the body is a transient thing, and the cuckoo alone knows of its insignificance, yet watches over it all the same. Perhaps the cuckoo is the outer god of Glintstone. As a cuckoo, a parasitic bird by nature, will palm their child onto you without knowing, similar to the Glintstone taking purchase within you. The old sorcerers would slice open their hearts with primal glintstone blades to imbue a primal glintstone with their soul, and thus did they die. Or did they? Sorcerers often wear glintstone crowns because they have a certain brand of dysmorphia. Their current host body's face is not their own visage, and thus a stark reminder of the truth behind their continuity. These stone masks often have a glintstone as their crown jewel. These are somehow tied to the sorcerer's well-being as seen by Sellen's true body. And her fractured scalp, along with her need to be transplanted. Leading us to the next stage, the Graven Mass.
A talisman depicting the first school of Graven mages. A nightmare that would continue to haunt the Academy. The Primeval Current is a forbidden tradition of Glintstone sorcery for those who cleave its teachings. The act of collecting sorcerers to fashion them into seeds of stars is but another path of scientific inquiry.
The Graven Mass is a snowball of sorcerers, a katamari of magic users that is destined to become a star and return to the heavens. How do they plan on getting all the way up there? Have you ever heard of the three-body problem? It's a sci-fi concept about how three suns in one solar system can create quite the struggle for any life to flourish, let alone fully form into sentience. It puts forth three unforgiving scenarios for this unfortunate world. Scenario 1 is that the other two suns will put the third off course, bringing it ever so closer to burning everything alive. The second is exactly as the first, only the sun is pulled farther away, leaving a frigid sun that is remote and cold, abandoning life. Now the third scenario is quite interesting indeed. Just imagine Europa, the icy moon of Jupiter, caught in a gravitational tug of war by its sister moons on one side, and the titanic gravity well of Jupiter on the other. This tug of war causes a burning, churning effect that causes Europa to have a warm core, with an icy outer shell. Imagine this tug of war inflicted on our blue Earth. That is scenario number 3. All three stars align in what is known as syzygy, and the gravitational pull wrenches lava from the ground and hurls castles and their foundations into the heavens. But let us not tarry, class. Let's move on to the next stage in the sorcerer's water cycle. The stars themselves.
Starlight, one of the glintstone sorceries of the Academy of Raya Lucaria, creates a small floating starlight that illuminates surroundings, granted to sorcerers who depart from the Academy to embark on journeys, even during the blackest nights, sojourns underground, or imprisonment in jail. The stars are never far from a sorcerer's side.
As hesitant as I am to engage in astrology, it seems fate has led us here all the same. Astrology and divining your own life's course through events in space have deep roots in our ancestors' culture. Long ago, when comets would introduce strange bacteria and the building blocks of life into our atmosphere, some people would even call comets plague stars, or stars with hair.
There's a place where astrology and pure mathematics meet. Now, we're talking pure mathematics, we're not talking long division.
The stars guide our fate, but who watches the watchman? Now, the stars are commanded by the Elden Ring, either via Radahn or his Great Rune, or just by him existing, persevering, enduring, struggling. Now, Silent Ellipsis has an astounding theory, which, if you haven't seen it, oh my god, you should, about how all the stars in the sky are blue shifted because they are rapidly approaching the lands between. I am convinced that this is the oncoming disaster that Onze sought to prevent by imprisoning himself. But we'll get back to Onze, I promise. Such a little cutie. Oh. And with all 4 stages, Starfall, Primal Glintstones, Graven Masses, and the stars themselves, stars fall from the sky and meld with sorcerers to return to the sky once more. The cycle begins anew as it repeats eternally. Is this the primeval current that flows from sky to our hearts and back again? Now let us go through the cycle one last time, keeping Astel and Godwin in mind, revisiting what we missed. And yes, this will be on the exam.
Our art draws upon the powers embedded in Glintstone. But what is the nature of such power? Glintstone is the amber of the cosmos. Golden amber contains the remnants of ancient life and houses its vitality, while Glintstone contains residual life and thus the vitality of the stars. It should not be forgotten that Glintstone's sorcery is the study of the stars and the life therein, a fact lost on most sorcerers these days.
Glintstone and the delightful colors it comes in may have 3 real-life inspirations, one being opals. Opals come in almost every color and are mineraloids.
Hey yo, what's a mineraloid? I ain't never heard of what the fuck a mineraloid.
A mineraloid is a naturally occurring substance that resembles a mineral but does not possess the ordered crystalline structure that defines a mineral. They are often amorphous or organic and may have a variable chemical makeup compared to true minerals. A chimera of chemicals mimicking the traits of crystals. The second and third inspirations being azurite and lazurite. Lazurite is believed by some to enhance awareness and promote harmony with nature. It's sometimes linked with Capricorns and Sagittarii, who are often viewed as the most studious, erudite, and shrewd of all star signs. Azurite and azure are named after a dazzling shade of blue. This crystal has a tendency to become malachite once exposed to the elements, almost taking a wild, untamed form. I'm convinced that green glintstone comes from the intelligence of the demi-humans and their queens, considering how much the demi-human queens value intelligence, given the sorcerous nature of the Bat Mothers. The demi-humans are Elden Ring's missing link between man and beast. It would be no surprise that we see both of these colors of glintstone along with gold in the lower strata of the lands between. Perhaps this is why green glintstone is the most commonly worn glintstone. Few respect the souls of the demi-humans. Get off of me, you damn dirty ape! Full Metal Alchemist. Red glintstones are the sacrificed souls of quote-unquote flesh and blood people. Blue-shaded glintstone is the soul of the stars, and possibly even the finger spawn. What a terrible word. Dark blue seems to be the shade of the spurious life forms of the Nox. Purple glintstone is souls of malformed stars. Gold is the soul of the gods. And shamans? While white glintstone may possibly be the souls of trees and other flora. As for this mysterious version of glintstone and heretical rise in the north, your guess is probably better than mine. I guess in a strange way, a magical trinity is made between crown, heart, and staff. But can souls escape this cycle? For better or for worse? Yes. Water in the air, condensating, is the source of morning dew.
Dew-kissed herba, a herb that grows in the false night in and around the eternal city. Soaked in arcane dew, it gives off the faint glow of starlight.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the horrific truth is that celestial dew is indeed liquid sorcerers. The implications of purity of one soul purifying the sins of others is found in the shaman jars and the stone coffins. No wonder this seems to be a product of Nox culture. A cold-blooded people constantly on the edge of science, however wicked that edge may be. Sorcerers seem to wield sentimentality as a weapon. This brings me to how sorceries are actually formed. Similar to mending runes, I believe every sorcery in Elden Ring was once the soul of the sorcerer who spawned it. Thops and other sorcerers may not have been aware of this truth. I'd venture to say some sorcerers are kept in the dark on this fact, or else no one would dare risk make new sorceries. This would seem to explain why Lusat and Azur have seemingly waited for us to come along to relinquish their souls to us, a worthy vessel. Perhaps the primeval glintstones are a way to cheat the system by creating a new sorcery, leaving the soul-converting properties to someone less fortunate. The ever-present through line of the seduction and the betrayal emerges yet again. Perhaps this is the distasteful and predatory nature of the Primeval Current that had Selen, Lusat, and Azur banished from the Academy. Speaking of which, the glintstone crowns hanging on the wall of the Academy have their glintstones removed. My good friend Ooze Prince of Death suggested that these were the losers of the debates held in the debate hall, which reminded me of the legal combat found in my favorite sci-fi novel, The Dasadi Experiment, by Frank Herbert, the author of the Dune series, and how the lawyers who lose their cases are killed on the spot, often to thunderous applause. We will now talk about water that cannot return to the cycle, such as stagnant or frozen water, metaphorically speaking. Both of the Astel's boss locations are screaming at us that the water must flow. The rotten cave in the south of Liurnia is another hint that when water is still, catastrophe is just around the bend.
My mind is a raging torrent, flooded with rivulets of thought, cascading into a waterfall of creative alternatives.
Ditto.
Ditto? Ditto, you provincial putz?
The Astel in the north, however, is lurking in a cave that is frozen over. I mean, what better visual metaphor for stagnancy could there be than this elevator? I must confess, so much of this lore went over my head when I first played, despite me being an unwavering sorcerer through the Souls games. I felt that, like many others, FromSoft had focused more on faith and arcane lore this time around the sun.
That was bad intelligence. Very bad intelligence.
Astel is described as a malformed star and a bastard. But what does this mean? The meteoric ore blade gives us a hint.
Katana forged from meteoric ore to dispatch life forms born of fallen stars. The blade is weighty, known to deliver slashes of such ferocity that the impact is said to resemble the crash of a falling meteor.
Astels are fallen stars that have died on impact, but have been revived by landing in the lands between, a place where death discriminates. The lands between life and death. A continent rife with alloyed gold that commands the soul to endure, keeping it from finding eternal rest. They are known as bastards because they are the unintentional product of the flowing primeval current and the necromancy of the greater will. The most commonly held assertion is that America has imposed a sort of psychopomp monopoly on all forms of the afterlife. And we can see now how Radahn halting the stars does just that. By preventing this water cycle from becoming stagnant, he simply arrests this sorcerer cycle altogether. Perhaps Radahn is simply a surrogate for the Glowmine Queen by halting the stars. Was it her responsibility to bring true destined death to Astels? Is this why Onze sealed himself away? Is Onze the once and future king, destined to take up her mantle?
Onze, a master swordsman who devoted himself to the Starline sword, realized that only ruin awaited at the end of the procession of stars, and imprisoned himself in order to forestall it. However, Yosh, an apprentice who absorbed his technique, stubbornly refused to heed his master's words, and spent his entire life at his side in defiance of his self-imposed seclusion.
I'll be going into more Glomite topics in my next video, I promise. Astel seemed to hoard the glintstone souls of the Nox people in a sad attempt to become complete. This would explain this hungry caterpillar's beaded physique. But can Astels truly achieve stardom through this quantity rather than quality? For this answer, let us turn to Godwin. The stagnant purple water surrounding the corpse of Godwin may be purple for two reasons. The first is that there is some evidence that early life on Earth may have used a different type of photosynthesis based on the molecule retinaldehyde instead of chlorophyll, making it purple instead of green. Algae and such is not safe for drinking, I promise. This ancient swamp water may be a tainted form of the crucible's ability to refract genes, often with prehistoric results. The second is a substance called potassium permanganate that turns water purple, and actually has some similarities to salt water. Who knows, perhaps the color purple is a cry for help, a plea to soothe and grant the spirit eternal rest. The Revenant character in Night Rain even has a delightful quote tied to her. A restless soul cannot be soothed by anything less than vengeance. The corpse of Godwin is surrounded by gargoyles along with the members of the Mausoleum faction. When we consider both of these elements, a startling theory bubbles up.
Gargoyles Great Axe. Bronze Great Axe, wielded by the valiant gargoyles. Just like the wielder, the missing parts have been mended with corpse wax. A patchwork of champions.
It starts with the Crystalians and how they are inspired by the dwarves in The Lord of the Rings.
My homeworld, Crystalium, is under attack by the evil Moltar. I've traveled through time and space to find other crystal warriors who can aid me in my quest for peace. Are you crystal warriors?
You see, the dwarves were created by a smithing god, who merely wanted to mimic the true creator god by making life of his own making, however false it may seem. This smithing god was about to destroy his work, in shame upon being discovered by his heavenly father. But in an act of grace, the smithing god was forgiven, and the dwarves were given true emotion and cognizance that would have been lacking in their minds had he not been caught. They were made by a creator who is absent, yet loves them from afar. And even their crystal forms are not safe from the scarlet rot, and the sense of defeat and abandonment that comes with it. We turn now to the Claymen and the depraved perfumers.
He sought to craft the power, not of the flesh, but of the flesh.
Clay with a soul and no sculptor. And shush! And depraved perfumers are the sculptors with no clay. How the Nox have yearned for a lord and have made attempt after attempt at reaching true equality with their so-called real counterparts.
Silver tear husk. A hardened husk shed by a formless life form known as a silver tear, found in and around the Eternal City. The silver tear makes mockery of life, reborn again and again into imitation. Perhaps, one day, it'll be reborn a lord.
The Nox may have ironically succeeded with their formless Night Lord, a far cry from their previous focus on perfecting their own forms. Or perhaps formless is just a synonym for amorphous, and that the Night Lord is the mimic tier to end all mimic tiers. A body that is meant to adjust to the soul within. Kind of a one-size-fits-all body. Perhaps this is the reason behind Godwin's corpse looking so befuddling. Is Godwin malformed because he is in the shape of the god of ghost flame. I know that Godwin's soul is not truly destroyed because all of these faces seem to prevent the presence of Deathroot. Just a quick side note about the body's anatomy. The side-snap neck, vacant gray eyes, and how it's chock full of worms is so eerily similar to the Silverbeasts in Bloodborne. As to the reason for Godwin's creation and eventual game of Pictionary during the Night of the Black Knives, what if Godwin is a collection of America's former children from the Nox era?
The mausoleum prowls, cradling the Souless Demi-god. O America, Queen Eternal, he is your unwanted child.
Perhaps Godwin gained his golden properties through quantity over quality. As a golden Graven mass, he would not create a common blue star, but a radiant golden sun. But just remember, divinity is a prison, which means tutelary/guardian deities are not royal guards, but jailers for their newfound stoic, almost placid sun. But who watches the watchman?
Crystal Release. Sorcery of the Mysterious Crystallians. Creates a mass of crystal, then shatters it to scour a wide area with a violent rain of crystal shards. This sorcery is used by high-ranking adepts among the Crystallians. Some also call this sorcery the Crystal Sun.
I will address Golden Fire's symbolism with martyrdom and self-sacrifice in my future video, The Way of Fire. So please like and subscribe to read along with the class. Oh, I almost forgot. Yeah, hit the bell for notifications to keep in touch. Just to keep in touch. To keep in touch. So, to reiterate, we learned how the afterlife of sorcerers is similar to the water cycle, and how the different colors mean a different origin of the soul within. We may even have learned how Astels are zombie stars that crave to become complete through quantity over quality. I am not Godwin, and if you don't hear from me for a while, I'll be taking a lovely night stroll in the rain. But I will return in my upcoming video, Elden Ring, The Way of Night and Flame. Until then, you are my sunshine. Good night.
To the earth, back to the stars, a tale as old as time, older than the light. We are the firmament when we open our eyes, but still we do forget the story of our lives. Newman, we are Newman, with the wisdom of stone. See us moving in the twilight, we call home. The primeval current flows. A tale as old as time, older than the light. We are the firmament when we open our eyes, but still we do forget